of their lives, and after this was over, they would go home and do something about it. "Come on, McCabe. Time to choose," Josh said. "We've told you ours." Josh had a wife he hadn't seen in over 5 years. He intended to change that. "Now it's your turn," Vito added. Unlike Josh, Vito had no wife because his bride-to-be had run out on him mere hours before their wedding. Vito planned on finding out why. "One thing you're going to go back and change." Logan hugged the blanket around his shoulders and gazed across the sea. Far off to the east, the sun was finally rising, lighting the sky with the new day. The wind had dropped to nothing, and everything had an eerie stillness in the half-light. Did he have any regrets? It was so long since he'd seen her. In reality, anyway. Even after all these years, she still visited his dreams. He closed his eyes and her image flashed up in his mind. Heart-shaped face, blue eyes, long, mahogany hair. His fantasy girl. "I had this one-night stand," he started, 11 years ago. "It was good. It had been the hottest night of his life. The next day, I was arrested. Long story. I spent a year in prison and never saw her again. But the memory of that one night with her had kept him sane through the horror of prison. He'd thought he was a tough guy and could handle anything, but that first night, when the door clanged shut, locking him in that tiny cell, he'd really believed he might not be tough enough. So he'd pushed away reality and thought about her instead. Her sweet mouth, her soft breasts, her tight, hot pussy wrapped around his dick. She'd got him through the worst year of his life. Every night for that whole year, I'd lie in my bunk, and I'd have those fucking fabulous fantasies about her. She kept me sane." "You never looked her up?" Josh asked. He shrugged. "What was the point? I reckoned she'd either be a disappointment or she wouldn't. And if she was as good as I remembered, what the fuck was I supposed to do? I wasn't ready to settle down. Probably never would be. It was a lose-lose situation, so I didn't even look." "And now?" He thought about dying without ever seeing her again. "Now I'm going to hunt down my fantasy girl. See how those fantasies compare to reality." The muscles in his belly tightened, and he recognized that he was afraid. There was no way any real woman could match up to his dreams. He'd finally have to let her go. And then what? Chapter 1. Abigail Parker smoothed down the skirt of her grey suit and slipped into her black, low-heeled pumps. A quick glance in the mirror showed she was ready to go. She didn't need to leave for work for an hour yet, but Jenny was due home from school any second, and Abby wanted to spend some time with her before she had to go. These moments were precious, and she always made sure they had some quality time together, whatever shift she was working. The last 10 years had been difficult, but Abby was finally getting to where she wanted to be. The doorbell rang and she headed out of the kitchen and down the hallway. She opened the door and took an automatic step back. The man standing on the doorstep was tall, nearly a foot taller than her 5'4", so she had to crick her neck to look into his face. She didn't know him. Did she? Surely she'd have remembered. He was the most stunning man she had ever set eyes on, his midnight black hair pulled into a ponytail, revealing sharp cheekbones and silver-grey eyes. The black and red ink of a tattoo edged out of the neckline of his t-shirt, and more snaked down the length of his right arm. He wore black jeans that clung to his long legs, and he looked lean and mean and vaguely familiar. Something about him tweaked at her memory, but she couldn't work out what. She returned her attention to his face. He still hadn't spoken, but was returning her scrutiny, a small frown pulling his brows together as though she wasn't who or what he'd expected. Then he smiled, a tilt of his sensual lips, and flutters started in her belly, most unexpected. "Abigail Parker." His voice was low and husky,